So once you learn the difference between these two questions, you're going to find a lot of marketing conversations extremely frustrating. And so the questions are, what could you do versus what should you do? Very subtle difference, very powerful though. So I learned this from The Traffic Engine. This is a course in the modern marketing system by Sean Twing and Andre Chapron. Absolutely pure gold. Highly recommend it. But this distinction came from one of the later lessons because this course really teaches you a lot of different things from Facebook ads to Google ads, how to retarget the best, and things I never really even thought to use the platforms, which is pretty cool. But before you start implementing, they give you a training on essentially kind of mindset behind it. And one of the questions that's brought up in that mindset, and it goes back to really one of the big principles of marketing. Because if you're looking at everything in the traffic engine, because that's what the course is called, if all those things in there, everything you could possibly do, and you ask, what could you do? You got a lot of answers there. There's a lot of things you could do. But when you ask yourself, what should you do? That's a very different question, a lot more nuance there. And when you're asked, but the problem with asking what you could do is it, it's kind of along the same lines of, will this work? And this is a question I asked, especially a lot in the beginning of when I didn't really understand what worked and what didn't. It's really a trick question. It's really a trick question. Nothing works at the same time. You can do the same thing tomorrow, and there's no guarantee you'll get the same result you did today. That's the game of marketing, right? Drives you nuts. And so, really, what they're describing, the problem with the what could you do question and will this work, is that it's not actually taking into account of resources that you have. For instance, will selling t-shirts on billboards work? Maybe. What if you put a t-shirt on every billboard across the entire world and you made sure everybody saw it multiple times? Are you going to sell some t-shirts? Pretty safe bet. Are you going to sell every person that saw it? Definitely not. But to some degree, it worked. But the problem with this is the amount of money it would take to put it on every billboard across the world is not a very efficient use of resources, one might say. A lot of time, a lot of money, and you're probably not making all that money back. Whereas what they're talking about when you ask the what should you do question, you actually have to start thinking in terms of the resources that you have because it assumes an opportunity cost in there. For instance, if you're running Facebook ads, you're putting $100 a day towards Facebook, that's $100 you're not putting towards Google. So where are you actually getting the best return on investment? And so really what they're trying to warn you here is what should the mindset that you need to be creating is the one of an so what they're trying to warn you of looking at these two different questions here is that while marketing is largely a creative thing and it's fun to be creative and try different things out, at the same time, you need to think about it logically. You're an investor and you're here to put your money towards the highest ROI things. It doesn't need to be sexy, it doesn't need to be flashy, but where can you put your money where it's get the highest ROI? That's really where the discipline of marketing comes in. But where I say it'll be frustrating going into marketing meetings that you got thinking about once you're starting to think about this is all these ideas that get thrown out there when you're brainstorming, when things are going high. See somebody just cracked the code on TikTok doing a specific trend. Like, could we do that? When you see somebody cold DMing on LinkedIn and getting great results there, could you do that? When you see somebody roll out a new webinar and they absolutely crushed it, made millions of dollars day one, something insane like that, could you do that? Maybe. And usually the answer is like, could you? Yeah, I could do that. But should you? That's a totally different question. It's a lot like putting butter on a piece of bread. You only have so much butter, that's your resources, your time, and your money. Then you got your piece of bread. Do you want to spread that between 5 different pieces of bread? You only got a little bit? Or do you want to just put all the butter on one piece of bread and actually enjoy that one piece of bread? And there's something that Alex Hormozy talked about, I think it was in a podcast, maybe it was $100 million leads, and he called advertising and marketing a game of efficiency. And that's exactly what this is. You only have so many resources, no matter who you are. Even somebody like Elon Musk only has so many hours in the day, only has so many dollars, even though he've come up with quite a few to buy a social media company seemingly overnight. At the end of the day, we only have so much resources. How are you going to allocate those to get the highest ROI possible? And then the game is You do it right, you get more resources, which is pretty fucking fun. Makes all the other headaches along the way worth it.